English Teacher Olympiad. And tonight we're going to talk about the contest. For those of you who don't already know the details about it, we'll go over the details and then talk a little bit about communicative methodology. So thank you all for being here this evening. I am coming to you live from beautiful Narin, where it is nice and cold. All right, so just a very quick reminder that this session is going to be recorded and we might use some images for publicity purposes. So if you don't want to be featured, you can just turn your camera off. It's no problem. Thank you. Okay, my name is Katie Miller. For those of you who don't know me, I am a fellow, an English language fellow working with Lingua Foundation this year. And this National Olympiad contest is brought to you by the Ministry of Education and Science and also the U.S. Embassy. And this is now the 4th year of the contest. And just some of the reasons for starting and continuing the contest. Number one is so that teachers can learn more about communicative methods of language teaching to use in their practice. Also to provide an opportunity for professional development so teachers can reflect on their practice. And it's also a chance for people to challenge themselves, try something new, step out of their comfort zone and just maybe develop new skills in competing in this project. The Olympiad is open to any English language teachers at state-run or private schools. The way that it works is that there are 3 stages. Stage 1 is an online test of English language as well as communicative teaching methods. That is happening on December 9th, and registration for that is live. There is a link on Lingua's Facebook page on social media. You can register for for stage 1, which is the test on December 9th. The highest scores from that will advance to the next stage. So those winners will be notified on or around December 10th. And they could progress to stage 2, which is the original lesson plan. So these candidates will submit an original lesson plan that demonstrates communicative teaching. And those lesson plans are due on December 30th. The deadline to turn in stage 2 is December 30th. And then stage 3, the highest scoring candidates will move on to stage 3, where there will be an online interview reflecting on the lesson plan, analyzing it. And finally, winners will be announced in the beginning of April with an award ceremony to follow. So here's that same information just in a calendar view. You can see stage 1, the online test, December 9th. And then submission of the lesson plan will be completed by December 30th. And then interviews will take place in February. And winners announced in the spring. So it is a competition. So there are prizes for our winners, including a laptop computer, I believe a printer, some great books and resources, and of course certificates and for runners up as well. Also, you have the opportunity to publish your original for English language teachers. There's also some supports in place because it's not just about helping teachers to compete in this Olympiad, but also just to develop their skills in general. So in addition to these online sessions that I'm doing on communicative methodology and lesson planning, which are recorded and which you can access anytime, they'll be posted on social media. There's also the opportunity to take a virtual professional development or VIP experience, and that's offered by the U.S. State Department's American English program. There's modules like a course that you would complete at your own pace, but then there's also weekly check-ins with a course facilitator. So you can reflect on the lessons, talk about them, discuss them, and also just practice English, So it's just another chance to, develop your speaking confidence as well as learning more about methodology. The courses that are offered in this are different topics within English language teaching, for example, media literacy or STEM, or just more methodology, latest trends. Last year, we had 24 groups all throughout the country completing one of these. That was about 500 teachers completed one of these. There's 2 courses. One is launching in November, and the next one will start in, there's 2 courses launching in November, and then 2 courses that will launch in March too. So again, it's not just about, you know, okay, we're doing this contest and it's a one-time thing, but no, there's other opportunities to continue developing your skills throughout the spring. Okay. So that's a little bit about the details of the competition. If you heard them before, my apologies. If they were new to you, if I just want to pause here and see if anybody has any questions about the logistics of the competition before we talk about the next part of the presentation. So I'll just check the chat, or you can unmute. If you have a question about anything that I just explained, please let us know. We're here to answer those questions. I will specify that it's open to any public school or private school teacher. It could be any grade level. It could be grade 3, it could be grade 10. It could be you know, any age, any level that you teach. If you teach beginners or if you teach more advanced students, the lesson plan could be, it can be based on your real teaching context. And one thing I have to mention is that previous winners from last year's contest are not allowed to win again, unfortunately. If you won last year, congratulations. We have to let somebody else win this year. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, if a question occurs to you, feel free to put it in the chat or ask us later offline. That's not a problem. All right, super. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about, and my apologies, because it's a little ironic because this is a presentation about communicative methodology, but unfortunately, it's not going to be very communicative. This is not a good example. This is not a good example of communicative teaching because we have such a large group here tonight. Really, this is going to be more of me giving you information and giving you some reminders and guidelines. It's not going to be an actual interactive workshop, you know, breakout rooms and learning tasks and things like that. Okay. This is supposed to be just a little faster for you. So you're going to be watching this. You're going to be like, there's no, what communicative methodology? What are you talking about? I'm sorry. This is not a good example of that, but it was not designed to be. All right. So what is communicative methodology? Right? Let's just think to ourselves for a minute. What does that mean? How do you understand that? And what does that include? What is that? What is communicative methodology? How would you explain that? Or what would that include? So we can communicate here. If anybody wants to put an answer in the chat, put an idea in the chat. Because we have so many people, if we all try to talk at one time, I think that'll be a little challenging. So if you want to put it in the chat, your ideas about communicative methodology, what does that mean, or what does that include?
Good evening, Katie and our colleagues.
Hello.
Hello. What is communicative methodology? It is speaking skills of maybe developing of speaking skills of everybody who want to speak in English, maybe in any language. And methodology, it is how to develop, how to improve, how to speak, how we use intonations. Maybe it is methodology.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
May I?
Go ahead.
Katie Miller, may I?
Oh, yes, go ahead. Go ahead. I got Mirgul with her hand up.
Okay, so communicate methodology is through communication, teaching language through communication.
Teaching language through communication. Good. I see Ainura with her hand up. Go ahead, Ainura.
I think communicative methodology is when we give all students a chance to speak For example, when we divide them into pairs and groups, they will have chance to talk. So that means communicative methodology is teaching in a communicative way.
Excellent, excellent. Somebody else, who
Can
is
I
that?
also add- Yeah,
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to add something. Yeah, I think communicative methodology is everything. Is the English environment. So feelings, your miming, everything connected with communicative methodology. So it's not just speaking, listening, reading. It's everything. So your feelings through communicative
that we
methodology.
need in our
So
lesson.
this is your English. This is your English environment, not your just the whole English environment. This is communicative methodology.
That's a very
Thank
good
you.
point. Looking at people, being face to face in a room with other people, whether it's the teacher or the other students, expressions, gestures, all of that is used for communication. Yes.
all communication between students and the teachers. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree with Gulnar Ece. Communicative methodology include everything like classroom management, how the teachers, how teacher behave in the classroom, how does she check, and teacher's position, where should she stand, everything, I think, yes. And
Yeah. Yes.
even teachers talking time, like sometimes teachers talk a lot. They always repeat what the student says, and which is echoing. So we have to avoid echoing. We have to avoid, yes, so we have to give them more chance to talk. And we have to, there should be more teacher talking, students talking time in the classroom rather than teacher talking time. Yes, we should balance sometimes, yes, if it's beginner level.
Yes, go ahead.
All English teachers want that their students will speak English very well. That's why we're trying to teach them. We're speaking, we're playing, we're giving grammar tasks, where we have conversations between us, everything in our classroom. We teach them.
Great. You guys already know, you guys know what's up. Here's something to think about. What's different between these two pictures?
The first picture is teacher-centered lesson. The second one, student-centered.
Yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. Also. In the first
Yeah.
one, teacher centered and the teacher explains everything, but in the second one, students involved in the activity. They are learning together in groups. Yes.
Yeah, they're interactive activities, different types. I mean, there is, I'm not saying that there's never a time when the teacher is standing in front of the board and all the students are looking at the teacher as the teacher writes. That happens, right? That happens. But if that's the only thing that happens and the students don't have a chance to work together or do different types of activities.
But also we have chance to students to write themselves, okay? Because they will see, they will write, they will listen, they will do all skills in the classroom.
Yeah.
Every skill is important, right? Not
here,
just, yeah.
Yeah. Teacher in the first one is teacher talks a lot, but in the second one, students, yes, engaged in talking, speaking, communicating, and asking questions with each other.
See that even just we can't hear any of the words that they're saying, but just look at how they're sitting, right? And you know, everybody facing the teacher, and all you see is you see the teacher or you see the back of somebody's head versus, oh, I can see other people's faces. Like you mentioned, everything is part of communication. Being able to actually see the other people in your class, see their face while they're talking is important, right? And now sometimes we don't have control or too much control over how our classrooms look, right? Sometimes we have seats that are just, they're in one position and we can't move them, but we know that we can still facilitate, and that's the key word here, facilitate opportunities for students to use and practice the language, right? That's what we do as teachers, right? We are not we don't open up the children's head and pour the English in, right? That's not a thing. It doesn't work like that, right? We have to have students learn the language for themselves. Okay, so it goes back to this idea of communicative competence. Del Hymes back in 1966, that it's not just about what structures you know. It's not just about what grammar and what vocabulary you know, but what you can actually do with it, right? How you can actually use it to communicate, to accomplish something, right? So when we're in our classroom, our focus is on fluency. When we're having a conversation, when we're discussing, when we're interviewing, we really want to focus on fluency. Can the students just talk? It's okay for them to make errors, right? Errors will exist. Nobody's going to be perfect, especially while you're learning a language. But we value communicating more than we value being precise, right? Communicative teaching is not only reading, it's not only grammar and translating, right? It's about using language in an authentic interaction. You can imagine that if we only teach our students the scripted dialogues that are in our textbooks, well, that only gets them so far, right? That they have to be having real conversations, right? Authentic interaction, expressing their own ideas, expressing opinions, expressing information, and not just repeating the kind of practice dialogues that are in their materials, right? So this piece of interaction, a lot of you brought up teacher talk time and student talk time, right? And we want to make sure that we're maximizing the student's opportunity to talk. What are we doing as teachers? We're asking questions, we're guiding a discussion, but we're not monopolizing, we're not taking over the entire class with our voices, right? And this sometimes is difficult for teachers. I'm not saying you, but in general, I think this is sometimes something that I've seen some teachers in my own school struggle with. Whether they're an English teacher or a history teacher or a science teacher, they're the expert, right? I know everything about the English language and I'm going to tell you. Rather than, here, why don't you try this on and you see how you do with it? And a lot of teachers do kind of have a different understanding of their role. So I'm going to ask you, what do you see as your role as a teacher? How do you see yourself? This is really, we talk about like teacher talk time, student talk time. It really is a question of our values and our beliefs. What do you believe is your job as a teacher? Are you there to just juggle all these things and keep all these balls in the air until the class is over? Are you someone who is tending to a garden where you have to nurture it and grow things and make sure they have the resources that they need? Are you inspiring? Is it your job to inspire students, like light a fire in their brains and get them excited about learning? Are you a conductor? Do you have all of these different elements in front of you and you have to make them all work together to produce something beautiful, right? Are you a coach? Are you trying to get everybody working towards a goal? Are you motivating them? Are you making them practice skills that they will use when it's time for the big game, right? So this is where, if we had more time and if we had a little bit, maybe, in a face-to-face session, and this is where I would do like a think, pair, share, or in a small group, what do you see as your role? How do you see yourself? Which one of these pictures do you kind of connect to as a teacher and why? Or maybe there's a different role that you see yourself playing in the classroom. But a lot of times, I think about the conductor, right? The conductor of the orchestra does not play every instrument, right? I don't play the violin and the drums and the clarinet, and the trombone all at the same time because I'm not making the music, right? It's the students who are making the music. It's the students who are using the language. I don't do it for them, right? So yeah, just something to think about. What's the role that you identify with and how do you see that? How do you kind of do that in your classroom every day? In a true interactive workshop, we would spend some more time with this question, but we're going to move on. Okay. Some more ideas about the role of the teacher. Again, we're providing opportunities for students themselves to use the language. We're asking questions. We're helping to move a discussion along. We do have to do explicit instruction, right? We can ask students to notice or discover grammar rules, but there will be a time when we have to teach them what we know about grammar, about vocabulary, right? About usage. A teacher should also make sure that they're encouraging risk-taking. So in your lesson, if there's something that you think students are going to be nervous about, or maybe not confident or hesitating to try, so then, how do we create a condition or an environment that encourages them to take a risk, right? Because they'll never use it, right? They have to try it on before they feel comfortable wearing it out in public, right? We also recast their errors, right? When we hear somebody make a mistake, or make an error when they're speaking, we don't sit there and say, well, that was a great idea you had, but you said he work instead of he works. So unfortunately, you're wrong. And I didn't listen to anything you said. No, of course not. Right. We treat errors as normal steps to learning a language. And so we'll repeat, we'll rephrase, we'll ask some questions. Wait, did you mean this or this? Right. So we're helping to guide students to using language more correctly. We talk about the role of the teacher. TV show presenter. I like that. I like that a lot. Sometimes I feel like I have to put on a show. I teach high school students, and sometimes, they're big kids. Sometimes I feel like I have to they want me to dance for them. It's like, what's the role of the student, right? We talked about our role. What about the role of the student? In a communicative classroom, we expect a student to interact. We don't expect them to just stay quiet the whole time writing notes, right? We expect them to interact with their teacher as well as their peers. We expect them to give information and receive information. We expect them to negotiate. So when they're having a conversation and there's something they're not understanding, we expect them to negotiate. Wait, can you say that again? Wait, she did it or he did it? Wait, that was yesterday? Did you do that yesterday? Right. So we expect them to try to work with the language in a conversation to actually get to some level of understanding. And by doing that, the students contribute just as much as they get from a lesson, right? They are a part of the class, and they're contributing language. They're contributing experience. They're contributing knowledge about topics, right? It's not just, the teacher knows everything and I'm going to tell you what I know. It's the students themselves are sharing all of that. All right, so key elements in a lesson plan. There's some kind of language structure that we're teaching, right? On whatever day, there's some target vocabulary, or there's a grammar, or there's a verb tense, or something about sentence structure. So we have to teach the meaning, the pronunciation, and the form. If we're focusing on listening or reading comprehension, then we'll have a pre-activity or a series of pre-activities to kind of build that background knowledge, get them thinking about the topic, prepare them to listen or read, setting a purpose. What information are you reading for? What information are you listening for? And then some type of activities that extend the learning, extend the practice with the form or the vocabulary. So these are just, basic elements of a communicative lesson plan. As far as materials for your lesson plan, I mean, it's 2023. We are virtually unlimited in what we could use in a lesson plan, right? There's so many different ways to get students to communicate that we can, here's a bottle of water. Okay, we can have a whole discussion about water. Drinking water is healthy. Do you drink enough water during the day? Oh, plastic is bad for the environment. What can we do to limit think about all the things we could do with any material in front of us. If you're using a textbook series, whether it's whatever type of textbook your school uses, your institution, there should be guided activities already in there. There should be a good sequence of activities in there. Any other tasks that you create, cards, worksheets, games, other activities that maybe even don't require materials, just require some questions or some example sentences. Realia, so bringing in actual artifacts, photos, videos, actual physical things to manipulate, right? Whatever materials you choose to have in your lesson plan, They just need to be appropriate to your group of students, right? For their level or their needs or the focus of the lesson. But you know, you can take anything and make it into a communicative activity, right? Anything can be a basis for communication. Here are some example activities that are kind of like our bread and butter, right? So these are some really great, simple, standard, favorite communicative activities: an information gap activity, a gallery walk, interviews, think, pair, share, or think, write, pair, share. So think about it, write your ideas down now, talk with your partner. Any kind of game that gets the students speaking in the language or reading or writing about the language. Find someone who gets them up and moving, which is always good. A reading jigsaw activity done in groups, or a fishbowl speaking, where you have 2 lines or 2 circles, right? And you have an inside and an outside. So anything that just gets them in front of each other or in a small group to work through the materials. I wanted to point your attention to some online resources that are available on American English from State. These are really good. If you've never checked out this website before, I really encourage you to spend some time on this website, because we really do try to put a collection of ready to go resources. We know, we're teachers, we know how busy your jobs are and how busy your lives are. So we have a bunch of different things that are just like ready to go on the American English website. So it's americanenglish.state.gov. Once again, americanenglish.state.gov. One thing is the English Teaching Forum. I have seen some teachers who have this in their bags, which makes me happy. So English Teaching Forum is articles by teachers for teachers. It's free. There's PDFs of the materials. There's teacher guides. There's tons of resources on the website, and just ready to go. Just press and play. Another great resource on American English is the Monster Book of Activities. It's an entire book that you can download as a PDF. It's got over 150 activities that engage students. Really fun stuff. And it looks like it's for kids. Like, it looks like it's for kids. It's not for little kids. It's for any level. It practices all four language domains: listening, speaking, reading, writing, also grammar, vocabulary, critical thinking, culture, also lesson plans in there for culture. Very clear instructions, also ways that you can vary it to fit different types of classrooms. And so I'll just show you an example of what it looks like. You know, there's the different activities and then a little chart. Well, what skills, what level is that for? Beginners or intermediate, advanced? Which language skills does that activity practice? What other things does it practice? Like, for example, critical thinking or vocabulary or technology. Is there a technology component that you can do with it? So yeah, so this book is fantastic. If you're just looking for new ideas, maybe you have your favorite activities that you always do, but you just want to try something fresh, then I highly suggest taking a look at this, the Monster Book of Activities. You know, for example, here's 20 questions. 20 questions, simple game, but super communicative, right? So that's what it looks like in the book. One more resource that's really cool, especially for listening practice. This is a part of the website called American Teens Talk. This is actual teenagers. This is not actors from the publishing company reading the sentences slowly with good intonation. This is actual American teenagers having conversations that are really good listening exercises if you're looking for audio for listening comprehension. And another, of course, the games. Of course, games. Activate is a whole section on games for learning English, communicative games. Again, they're ready to go. Just, you can download it, you can print it, you could copy it. If you don't want to print it, you could just, you know, write it down yourself, but they're all there. So yeah, so once again, it's americanenglish.state.gov, has just a ton of resources. I think I talked about that already. Okay, that's all I have to present. The basic information about the contest, the Olympiad, and general ideas about communicative language teaching, you know, some examples of it, what it can look like, and a bunch of resources. I'm going to put that in the chat. AmericanEnglish.state.gov is a fantastic resource with, like I said, ready to go activities, ready to go. Does anybody have any questions or any, oops, so, go with my slides here. Does anybody have any questions that we can answer while we're here together live? Could we put the link for registration? Let me put that into the chat if I can. It's on Lingua social media. Let me grab that link and put it in the chat. Here it is. So the link is a Google form. If you would like to register for the Olympiad, basically you'll get an email with you register. The registration deadline is going to be December 1st. So we have about 2 weeks. If you're thinking about it, you have like 2 weeks to make up your mind. I say go for it. Just go for it, right? You don't have to study for this test. Just, you know, show what you know. You never know how you'll do. Just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try, right? And then December 9th is the actual day of the test, and you will get an email reminding you about it with a link to the actual test the day of. Yes, Ainura has her hand up. Go ahead, Ainura.
I have a question, like teachers who work in private school, can they participate in the Olympiad?
They can. They just have to be a primary or a secondary teacher. Yeah, if they teach in a university, if they teach at a post-high school university level, this competition is not for them. But if they teach in a private school, that's totally fine. There was another question in the chat that was connected. They said, I teach in a private school. I don't use the same textbooks as the public school. Is that okay to do a lesson based on that? Of course, yeah. It can be based on whatever materials you're using in your classroom.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have any other questions?
Okay, if there is no questions,
Can you
we
write
can
the
wrap up.
languages? Oh yeah. We can what? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can wrap up if we can finish. If there's no questions, and if there will
Oh,
be any
wrap up, yeah.
questions, you can always write us on the social media, on Facebook or on Instagram, or send us an email, and we will be happy to answer for your questions. Please go ahead and register to the Olympiad, and make sure to check your emails on December 7th or 8th, because prior to the National Olympiad Day, 1 or 2 days before, I will be sending an email and a reminder. So reminder with the link to the actual National Olympiad, so you just in case you don't miss it, because people sometimes forget to check their emails, or they don't have the what is it called, like when you have a notification on, so you might miss the link. So make sure that on December 7th or 8th, check your email. Okay,
Great. Well, thank you everybody for attending. IDI for your help. And my apologies that we started a little late, but I was just really happy to see you all here. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you in the Olympiad.
Thank
Great,
you very
thank you,
much.
Katie, so
See you
much.
also.
Okay, everyone, have a good evening. Bye bye.
Bye.